So far, we've shown you how to filter the data using one comparison operator, the equals sign, as well as a handful of logical operators like and, or, in and not in, and like and not like. Let's return to comparison operators and show you how to use greater than and less than operators to return a range of actors and actresses based on the letters in their names. For this first example, let's assume we want to return all actors whose last names start with W, X, Y, or Z. We could write this out in SQL like you see on the screen, using like with a wildcard behind each letter, with an OR operator between each filter criterion. Before we run the query, let's also make our results a little easier to read by reversing last names and first names in the select statement and our order by clause. I think this is really inefficient, right? There has to be a simpler way. There is, and it involves the trusty greater than sign. If we update our where clause to say where last name is greater than W, we get the exact same result. If you're wondering why greater than W is returning names beginning with W, it's because SQL is comparing each last name to just the letter W that we specified in our filter criteria. If we had an actor whose last name was just W, like John W. or something, and we ran this same query, John W. would not be in our results. But if we changed the criteria to say greater than or equal to W, John W. would be in our results. But maybe it'll be clearer if I explain it another way. Let's update our query to return all actors with the last name greater than Willis, like so. Notice now that there are no actors named Willis appearing in our results. Our results start with Wilson and then go up from there. Now let's make one small tweak to the query. Let's say where last name is greater than or equal to Willis by just adding the equal sign next to our greater than sign, and then run it again. Now we're getting Willis in our results. This is your introduction to greater than and greater than or equal to. Whereas in mathematical notation, we would put a line under the greater than sign to signify greater than or equal to. In SQL, we just add an equal sign after the greater than sign. And it works the same way with less than. Let's change our where clause to say where last name is less than Allen. And you can see that we get a result list of just 3 actors, all of whom have the last name Aykroyd. Now, let's change our query to say where last name is less than or equal to Allen, and look at the results. Now we have 6 actors, the 3 named Aykroyd and 3 more named Allen. There's another kind of comparison operator we can use here, and that's not equals. To do a not equals comparison in SQL, just put a less than symbol next to a greater than symbol. Let's add another condition to our where clause, specifying where last name is less than or equal to Allen and first name does not equal Kim. And this will take our results from 6 actors down to 5. Another way of specifying not equals is to use an exclamation point followed by an equals sign, like this. This will give you the exact same results as using the other operator. Most SQL developers prefer to use the less than greater than style because it is the ANSI standard, and I will use it throughout this course. I want you to see the other style just in case you come across somebody else's SQL in your career, so you know what this does. The last operator I want to show you in this video is actually a logical operator I mentioned earlier called between. Usually, I've used a between operator to query data that is between 2 dates, or sometimes between 2 numbers. In this case, we're going to use between to return actors and actresses between 2 letters. So let's rewrite our where clause one last time and say where last name is between A and B. When we run this query, we get 7 actors, all of whom have names between A and B. Now remember that the letter B here is treated like the first possible name among all names beginning with B. If we want to include some names that actually begin with B, there are some things we can do. We can't use a percentage symbol to specify a wildcard. It only works with like and not like. However, we can perhaps say something like where last name is between A and BI. This will return all actors starting from A and ending at BI, including those with names like Bailey, Ball, and Basinger. For our last example, let's use the reverse of between, which is not between. Let's change our where clause to say where last name is not between A and W. And let's see what we get. Now we get 22 actors and actresses. We've excluded everyone whose last name was in the alphabetical range from A to W, and thus we've returned every actor whose name is greater than the letter W. Hopefully you're having fun and getting the hang of SQL by this point. We're nearing the end of the Week 1 content now, but there are still a few more basic SQL topics I want to cover before we do the first exercise. In the next video, I'll begin to show you how you can manipulate the data for your results.